everybody knows I grew up in Austria, right? Like I'm born in very simple environment, right? Like I was born in 1966, so what most people don't even know anymore, it was only black and white TV in Europe, and there was not a lot of stuff going on at that time. Besides that, they were still rebuilding all the countryside, you know, from the war, from the Second World War, right? Like it was just like 15 years later, so it's not like, or 10 years later where everything happened. So I grew up in very simple surroundings, you know. My parents had little things, and my father was working in a coal mine, and then my mother tried to be a hairdresser, and they had a kid and not much to go by, right? So it's like, and we grew up, or I grew up in a converted chicken shed, which they made their apartment. And that's it. So we started there, and very simple, very like outdoors a lot, you know, on a part. And I had
so simple
friends.
beginnings.
It was super simple stuff. You know?
All right, cool. So as far as that, so that's where it began in Austria. So tattooing, how did tattooing become a part of your life? Like what was that first initial thought?
I think the real initial thought started really when I became like very active in a motorcycle scene. It's like I got tied into it. I had some experience with tattooing before. It's my father had a tattoo. He had a forearm tattoo. He got in the military. So I grew up with somebody having a tattoo in the household.
Got it.
But he also explained to me that he did it with the big pen needles, and it swelled up like crazy. And my mother hated it because it was his ex-girlfriend's name. So
oh no.
Nobody could remove it, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up with that, and then I tried to do a tattoo on one of my so-called gang friends when I was like around 12, 13. And,
okay.
It was just like a simple thing, you know. But then really the time where I got caught up on it was somewhere around 18 years old, and I started to ride motorcycles. I got connected with the motorcycle scene in my hometown. And of course, automatically, as everybody knows, right, tattoos and motorcycle go along, and that's really where it started going. And I received my first tattoo. It was a half sleeve right away. It was a tattoo which has been done in an apartment, like anything else at that time. There were no tattoo shops. And I still have it today. And I think that's the most influential tattoo which I carry, because it was also on the
kind of reminder of your roots.
Yeah, it was the design on my sissy bar from the motorcycle. So, and for my first chopper, and I still have the tattoo today.
That's cool.
From the same guy.
That's really cool. How was it tattooing in Austria back in the day? Was it?
Yeah, it was different than today, right? Or maybe not much different. We worked in the underground. We worked wherever we could. You know, it was not a legal business, so. It was very frowned upon, so we were just like working wherever we could, where there were no people around, right? If this was a clubhouse, a motorcycle meeting, a cellar, a basement, things that people don't want to talk about today, right? Because the most tattoo artists which talk crap about people which start in a basement somewhere forgot that they started in the basement too. Maybe not in the basement, but they started in their living room, in their kitchen, wherever they were, you know? I mean, this is nothing else as a basement tattoo artist. So it was a little bit different in the time. There were no shops. It was very tricky to work with other people because there was an instant fight going on as soon as somebody knew that you were a tattoo artist. So tattoo artists and tattoo artists at that time did not like each other much. They thought very territorial, and rightfully so, right? Because every tattoo artist which worked at that time, or the most of them, were very territorial. They were either way with a gang, they were either way with a motorcycle club, there were some associated with territory. And the tattoo artists enforced the territory. So it was a little bit tricky at the time, you know. We couldn't get tattoo machines.
Yeah.
It was not like today. There was no internet, there was no cell phones, there was no... So we had to create the machines, or find out over friends, know somebody to a friend to buy a tattoo machine.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, companies like Spalding and Rogers, or Stanley Maskovitz, right, with his brothers, and S&W and National Tattoo, or Mickey Sharps, especially from England. Those were really Ronnie Starr. Those were the big heroes, you know, which were manufacturing supplies.